All right. Daf Yomi for the week is sponsored by Aaron and Evelyn Kislasi, B'schus Rafua Shlema for Mr. Kislasi's mother, Gracia Bas Masoda, and for Chana Bas Bruria. And today's Daf Yomi is sponsored by my father, Mr. Howard Loiterman, Li'ilui Nishmas, my grandfather. Yitzchak Leib ben Eliyahu HaKohen. The Yortzeit is the 26th of Adar. We are 8 lines from the top of the page. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Rami Ksiv. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa, he contrasted the following psukim. Marom Kitzo, and then the pasuk says, Marom Kitzo, that his dwelling is on high, and then another one in Ksiv, and says in Malachim, that Malon Kitzo. So, it's in Malon Kitzo. Amar Ose Rasha. So Sanhedrin said, but Tchila Achrav Dira Shalmata. So he says, which is it? Is Hashem's dwelling above, or is Hashem's dwelling below? So this is what Sanhedrin said. First, I'm going to destroy the Beis Hamikdash down here. That's my plan. Destroy the Beis Hamikdash. V'achar Achrav Dira Shalmata. And then I'm going up to Shemayim and I'm going to destroy that.
How did you destroy the Beis Hamikdash?
I don't know how he's going to do that. He can't get there, right? But it seems like that was his chutzpah, that it was a point that he was mechutzaf, and he wanted to be able to go after that. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Rabbi Shua says, "My dichsiv." What does it mean when the pasuk says, "Ata hamibal adei Hashem alisi al makom hazeh lehashchiso"? He said, Sanhedrin said, would I be able to would I be able to come up to destroy the Beis Hamikdash if it wasn't with Hashem's permission? So,
why would he bring Hashem up on a zero plan?
Well, his point is that if Hashem really didn't want this, he was kind of degrading the enemy, right? They're gonna. Hashem even agrees with me. So Hashem Amar Elai Allah. Hashem told me to come up, right? El Hard says to this place, lahash v'hishchisa, and to destroy it. So maihi. So where did Hashem give permission? What does that mean? What's the explanation that he gave permission to destroy Eretz Yisrael? Deshamala Navi Dekamer. He heard the Navi Yeshaya who said the following: Ya'an kimas ha'amazeh. Since this nation has become disgraceful, as mi hashiluach hahochim la'at umesos es ritzin uben Ramalyahu. Therefore, Hashem says that I'm going to bring upon you the rivers, the waters of the river that are strong and many, the king from Ashur and all of his nation. So he basically heard that the Nevi'im were prophesying that this was going to happen because the Jewish people were not doing the right thing. So he was reminding them, that's why I'm here. Rav Yosef, Meli Targuma, Dahaikra Lohava Yadana, my Kamar. If it wasn't for the Aramaic translation of this pasuk, we wouldn't have any understanding of what this pasuk means. Pasuk says, "Chalaf dekatz amahadein b'machusa de Beis David de midbar lahon ben." So he says, this is what Rav Yosef explains. This is how to translate this pasuk. He says, "Chalaf dekatz amahadein b'machusa de Beis David." Right, since this nation was destructive. In the house, they destroyed the Malchus of Beis David, the kingdom of David. The Medaber Lahon Benayach Kamei Shilucha Denagdin Benayach, because the ones that were the rulers of Beis David were ruling the people in a nice way, right? They were talking to them in a nice way, which is like the waters of the Shiluach, which the Shiluach was the water supply in Yerushalayim, which was a slow moving water source, and it was a
slow water stream.
That's correct, like a slow water stream. Ve'is rei'u beritzin ubar Ramalia, and the Jewish people wanted to destroy the kingdom of David following the kingdom of Yehuda. They wanted to destroy the Malchus Beis David, and that was inappropriate because the Malchus Beis David was doing a good job in speaking properly. So Ubar Ramalia. So I'm sorry, Ubar Ramalia. That's the end of the pasuk. Okay, so now Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, "My diksev." What does it mean when the pasuk says, "Meras Hashem bebeis rasha v'navet tzadikim yivorach"? He says, "What is the meaning of this pasuk? What's the translation of this pasuk? The Meras Hashem bebeis rasha v'navet tzadikim yivorach." He says, "Me'aras Hashem," the curse of Hashem bebeis rasha, in the house of a wicked person. That's referring to Pakach ben Ramalyahu. Pakach ben Ramalyahu was one of the kings of Yisrael. Shaya ocha arba'im sa'ah gozalos bekinuach tzeuda. He used to eat 40 sa'ah of young birds as dessert for his meal.
Sa'ah, which means flock?
Sa'ah is a large measurement. I'm not sure exactly how much that is in pounds or whatever, or in, I guess, liters or whatever, kilos, right? I'm not sure how much that is, but it was a large amount. And basically, he was so used to gluttony that he was not satisfied by that large number. But v'navet tzadikim yivorach, the what do you call it? The blessing, the house of the tzadikim will be blessed. That is referring to Zechizkiah Melch Yehuda. That is Chizkiah, the king of Yehuda. Shaya ocha litra yerek besuda. He would eat a litra of vegetables as a meal, which is not that significant a meal, right? He would just eat some vegetables, and he'd be satisfied because he was a pleasant person, and he wasn't a gluttonous person. Therefore, he was satisfied with little.
He was more humble.
That's correct. Okay, so now, let's talk more about this prophecy that Sanhedrin knew that he was supposed to come and destroy Yerushalayim, or he thought he was going to destroy Yerushalayim. The pasuk says, "V'lachein hinei Hashem ma'ala alehem es mei hanar hatzumim v'harabim." This is what we quoted before, that Hashem is going to bring upon you the river, the waters that are strong and many, as Melech Ashur, the king of Ashur. Uksiv, the pasuk says, "V'chalaf b'Yehuda shataf v'avar artzavar yagia," that he crossed through Yehuda, and the waters flowed up until the necks. The water flowed, meaning this river, this raging river that's supposed to destroy Yerushalayim, went all the way up to Ad Savar Yagia, reached up to their necks. So, Elamaitaima Ionish. Well, if that's the case, that this is what everybody was doing, what they were, this Sanhedrin was doing, what Hashem decreed, then why is it that Sanhedrin got punished for attacking Bnei Yisrael? So the answer is, Navi As'er Shvatim is Navi. So what happens is the Navi was prophesying about Sanhedrin's right to destroy the 10 Shvatim, which he did. Ihu Yohiv Date al Kulu Yerushalayim. But he, Sanhedrin himself, decided that he had permission to attack Yerushalayim, which he did not. So therefore, since he overstepped, therefore he got punished. But Navi V'Amar
He put to death. What was his punishment?
185,000 of his soldiers died, and we're going to see in more detail what happened to him as well. So, Bod Navi V'Amar Le, the prophet came to him and said, V'Amar Le, Ki lo mo'af la'asher motzak la. So he says that Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Brachi explains the pasuk. Pasuk means Ki lo mu'af ein nimsar am. This nation is not given over of Chizkiyahu Ayef, who are tired. This nation which is tired is not given over to you. Why are the people tired? But Torah. They were tired because they were learning Torah so much, so therefore that was what saved them. Chizkiyahu's.
How does Torah exhaust you? It's supposed to wake you up.
Oh no, it's exhausting. Torah, learning Torah is an exhausting pursuit. Okay,
so you need coffee.
As we're going to see, yes, exactly. Well, lots of coffee. So, biyad. So they're ayipator biyad mi hametzik lo. Right. It's not Hashem is not going to give them over to the hand of the one who is going to attack them, Sanhedrin. So, Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Bar Brachia. Rabbi Elazar ben Brachia says, Ein nimsar am ayef bator biyad. I just read that. I just went back a line. Okay, so my ke'es harishon. What is the explanation of the pasuk that continues on? Ke'es harishon, the first time hakel artza zvulun v'artza naftali v'achron hichbid derech. So he explains like this. I'll go through each word first. Lo karishonim, not like the first ones, not like the 10 shvatim that were destroyed, right? That they're in the area of the land of Zvulun and Naphtali. Shemei kilu me'aleim hol Torah, because they got destroyed because they gave up. They became light in the yoke of Torah. They did not follow through on learning. Aval achronim, but these people, va'achron, these people of Chizkiyo, shechbidu aleim al Torah, they were very much involved in learning Torah. Ru'uyin halolu lasos lahem nes ke'ovrei hayam. They are worthy of having a miracle, like crossing the sea in Yetzias Mitzrayim, crossing the Yam Suf. Ukedorchei hayardin, or people when we crossed into Eretz Yisrael and the Yarden stopped on their behalf. Okay, so im choser bo, so if Sancheriv goes back and doesn't attack Yerushalayim, mutov, then that's going to be great. Everyone's going to be happy about that. V'im lav, but if you don't go back, ani esa lo galil bagoyim, I'm going to make you rolled up in embarrassments, right? I'm going to embarrass you in public amongst all of the nations.
If you embarrass someone, that means it's like you kill them.
That's right. So that's the punishment, essentially, right? You're going to be an embarrassed person in front of all the nations because you will be unsuccessful. Okay, next. Acharei hadvarim va'emes ha'eleh. So after these words of truth, ba Sancheriv melech Ashur. So the king of Sancheriv came. King Sancheriv of the king of Ashur came. Vayavo b'Yehuda, and he came through Yehuda. Vayachen al ha'arim habetzuros, and he camped against the cities that were on the borders, on the boundaries. Vayomer lebikam elov, and
Mitzrayim would be like in the border, right?
Vayomer levikam elov. I'm not sure what the translation of that is. So he says,
what's the word?
Vayomer levikam elov.
One second. It's in the Rush or on the Gemara itself?
That was from the pasuk. Hi, how are you? Okay. So in any event, so high rashna lahai pardashna. So the Gemara is astonished by this fact that Sancheriv is going to attack. It says, is it appropriate?
Yeah. He planned to breach them so that
he planned to breach them. That's what he was. He planned to breach them. Okay, so he says that it doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? That this to give this present to Chizkiah, since they were learning Torah, so they're supposed to get some kind of punishment that Sancheriv is coming after them. So Acharei Hadvarim, so explain. So the Gemara explains, this is the parish of the pasuk. Acharei Hadvarim veha emes, after these words of truth, right? So my achar, what does that mean afterwards? Amar Ravina. So Ravina says we are 5 lines from the widest lines, 5 lines down from the widest lines on Tzadi Daled Amud Beis. So he says, Amar Ravina, le'ach shekafat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Hashem jumped up, v'nishba, and he promised, v'amar, and he said, Iya mina le l'chizkiya, ma'isina le l'sancheriv. If he says, ma'isina le l'sancheriv, masarna le biyadach. If he says, I'm going to bring you in your hands, Sancheriv and his armies, and I'm going to give them to your hand, hashta amar, lohu ba'ina, velo be'asuse ba'ina. So he would say, even if we're going to win, I don't need this, right? That would be Chizkiyahu's answer. I don't want Sancheriv to attack me and then me win. I'd rather Sancheriv not be here at all. So miyad kafas HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'nishba d'maisina le. So therefore Hashem swore, and he said that I'm going to bring Sancheriv. The Shenemar, as the pasuk says, nishba Hashem tzvakos le'mor. Hashem swore im lo kasher dimisi kain haisa v'chasher ya'atzti hisakum. Right, just like I have. This is the way that I planned it, and just like I had given the advice, that's how it's going to come about. Lishbor Ashur Bartzi, we're going to break Ashur in my land. Val Hare Avusenu, and we're going to crush him amongst my mountains. Vesarme Alehem Olo, and we're going to remove the yoke of Sancheriv from upon you. Vesubalo Me'al Shichmo Yasur, and his burden from upon your shoulders will be removed. Okay, so that's what Hashem said. First, they would have said that we don't want him, but now that he's here, Hashem's going to save him. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says on this pasuk Al Harai Avusena that I'm going to crush you in the mountains. So he says we're a play on the words avus, which means a trough, an animal trough. Amar Kosh Baruch Hashem said Yavos Sancheriv v'siyato v'yase avus. Sanhedrin and his people should come, and they will become a trough for the people, meaning that the Chizkiyahu is they'll be like able to consume all of their valuables and all of their food, like it's all sitting there prepared for them like a trough. Okay, now v'haya bayamahu. So it will be on that day, Yasur Sivlo Me'al Shechma, that Shechmecha, that Hashem is going to remove the burden of Sanhedrin, of Assyria's oppression from their shoulders, Ve'olo Me'al Tzavaracha, and their yoke from upon your neck, Ve'chol Ve'ol Mipnei Shemen. And the yoke will break because of its heaviness. 1 second, what is that? Mipnei Shamen. So
by the oil.
Right, the yoke is going to be broke because of, I think shaman is oil, right?
Yeah,
so it's oil. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to be broken because of oil. So we'll explain what that means. Amar Rav Nachva says, Chovel ol Sanhedrin, the yoke of Sanhedrin will be broken, Mipnei Shemano Shel Chizkiyahu, because of the oil that Chizkiyahu put in. What was that? What does that mean? Shayadolik b'bati knesios. He used to light the candles in the shuls so that people would be able to stay up late and learn. So therefore, that merit of the oil of Chizkiyahu was what merited their eventual winning against Sancheriev's army. Dolik shayadolik b'bati knesios ubati medrashos. Ma'asa. What did the Torah learning? What did Chizkiyahu do? Not Cherev al Pesach Beis HaMidrash. He put a sword. Right, this is a good way to keep people learning. He put a sword by the opening of the base medrash, and he said, "Kol mi she'eino ozik b'Torah yidkar b'cherev zu." Anybody who doesn't learn Torah is getting stabbed by this sword.
It's like Hashem threatened us with Har Sinai.
It's like that a lot, exactly. So Chizkiyahu forced everybody to learn Torah, and that's because since everybody learned Torah, that's how they merited to beat Sanhedrin. Badku midan v'ad Beersheva. They searched from Dan all the way to Beersheva, from north to south in Eretz Yehuda. V'lo matzu am haaretz. Magvas Megavas ad Antipras. They didn't find anybody in the entire country from Gavas to Antipras. I guess places that were all around the country. So they didn't find anybody who was in Amaretz. After everybody stayed learning, everybody knew stuff. V'lo matzu tinok v'tinokas. They didn't even find a young male, a young boy or a young girl that Ish v'isha, or a man or a woman, shelo hayu bekiin behilchos tuma v'tara, who were experts in the halachos of tuma and tara, which are complicated areas of halacha. But they spent so much time learning that everybody knew their stuff. V'aloso ador, for that generation, who Omer, the pasuk says, v'haya bayomahu, on that day, yechya ish eglas bakar ushtei tzon. They will live. Each man will live on one calf and two sheep. Meaning they were so busy learning, they really weren't feeding themselves heavily. They were subsisting on minor amounts. They also weren't working very hard, right? They weren't raising money and living large. They had modest amounts of food and modest amounts of riches, and they stayed in learning, and that's what that time was about. The Omer, and it says, "V'haya bayomahu," and it was on that day, "Yeh kol makom asher yeshem elef gefen be'elef kesef l'shamir." So he says that there was no place that wouldn't have tons of wine and money that would be lying around. So he says, that even though there was plenty of wine and plenty of products around for money for everybody to get, it went to waste. Nobody wanted it, right? They were all engaged in learning, so they were not. They all went to thorns and thistles, right? They didn't take care of their vineyards because they weren't going to work. People that was it. That was like the Kolel generation, and they all stayed home and they lived on little, and that was it. And they merited.
It's very current.
It's very current, exactly. There you are. So therefore, that was how they did it. So they stayed home. They didn't learn. They lived on very little, and they were rewarded by being saved from Sanhedrin. V'osif shalalchem. So Osif shalalchem, osif hechasil. The Gemara explains what that means. Amar lehem hanavi liyisrael. So the Navi says to the Jewish people, Asfu shalalchem, right? Gather up all of your spoils once the people of Sanhedrin were destroyed. So they gathered up all of the riches of the people of Sanhedrin. Amrulo. So Bnei Yisrael said to him, Livzos O lachlok. What's the process here? Should everybody basically be taking whatever they want for themselves, or is this supposed to be gathered together and then we're going to equally divide it amongst everybody? What's the process here? So Amar Lemi said, Ke'osif hechasil, right? This is like the locusts grab everything. So ma osef hechasil, kol echad ve'echad latzm, meaning every man for himself. Everybody just go out and grab whatever you want from the soldiers, all their supplies and things that you want. Av shalalchem, kol echad ve'echad latzm. Everybody can take for themselves. Amru lo. So the Jewish people said, "V'halo mamon aseres hashvatim uravbo." How can we take whatever we want from everybody? After all, remember, immediately before Sanhedrin lost the battle to Yerushalayim, they had just won the battle against the 10 Shvatim, which means that the 10 Shvatim's, all the money from the 10 Shvatim was all mixed in with Sanhedrin's stuff. So therefore, if the people from Yehuda were to take all the stuff from Sanhedrin, so they'd be basically stealing from money that came from Jewish people. So they were wondering, how are we supposed to do that? So Amar Lehem, so the Navi said to them, Kemashak Gavim Shokek Bo. This is like the sound of the of pipes of water that are coming, that are springing forth from the land, springs of water, meaning that this is like water, this is like utensils that have been immersed in water, and therefore everything is clean. There's no tumah from it. Once it became stolen by Sanhedrin, from the 10 Shvatim, it became his. And now that you're taking it back from him, now you're taking from Sanhedrin. You're not taking stolen property from the other Jews.
Individual case, right? If
correct. If somebody steals from somebody, that's right. Well, you wouldn't be after repair.
If it gets rusted.
I guess gold doesn't rust much, right? So gold and silver don't really rust, right? Iron and those metals rust. So now, so he says it's Afma says this is the same thing. So Ma gave him halalu ma'alin adam mitum, just like the springs of water are going to raise somebody from being tamei to tahor. So af mamonim shel Yisrael, so too with Jewish people's money, kevan shenafel biyad ovdei kachavim. Once it winds up in the possession of non-Jews, miyad tihar, then it becomes purified from being the Jews' money, and now it's able to be taken back in battle. So it's kidder Rav Papa. It's like Rav Papa says, Dama Rav Papa, Ammon and Moav taru b'sichon. That Ammon and Moav were the descendants of Lot, and therefore the Jewish people were not allowed to attack and take the land from Ammon and Moav. But what happens is Sichon conquered Ammon and Moav, and therefore when the Jewish people later conquered Sichon, they took the land of Ammon and Moav from Sichon, which is permitted because they didn't take it from Ammon and Moav, they took it from Sichon. So that's the similar idea. Amar Rav Huna says, Eser Masos Nosos Rosh Bosoyom. Sanhedrin was on the move fast. He traveled through 10 camps in one day. What should have been a 10-day journey, he was moving, right? He went all the way through. Shinemar, as Pasuk says, he went to the following camps. Ba'el Ayas Avar B'migron LeMichmash Yafkid Kelov. Avru mi Abra Geva Malon Lanu Charda Harama, give us Shol Nasa. These are the lists of all the different places he went. Then Sahali Kolech Bas Galim Hakshivi Laisha Ania Anosos Nadada Me Demena Yoshve Hagavim Heizu. So this list. The Gemara is explaining that all of these names of places, Ayas, Migron, Michmash, Mabra, Gava, Rama, Giva, Shaul, Bas Galim, Laisha, and Anosos, and Madmena, Gavim are all names of places that were camps that he could have stopped at for the day's journey, but he kept going from place to place in order to get to Yerushalayim fast, right? So the problem is that we just said there's 10, Hani Tuvya Havyon. So that's more than 10, right? There's 12 in that pasuk that were actually listed. So how do you get to 10? So the answer is, Sahali Kolech Bas Golim, right? He says that pasuk is not one of his travels of Sanhedrin. Rather, Yeshayahu is saying, Navi who Dekamar Le Lichnes Yisrael. The Navi is telling the Jewish people, Tzali Kolech Bas Galim. Bas Galim, the daughter of waves, is meaning, that's what the translation of Bas Galim, it's not a place that you should raise your voice, the daughter of waves, meaning Bitol Shel Avram, Yitzchak, V'Yakov, Shasu Mitzvos Kegali Hayam. These are the children, the daughters of, or the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who are called waves because they had wave after wave of mitzvos.
Would you say a mermaid is the daughter of wave?
A mermaid doesn't exist, I would say. So we would say that this is the that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they made mitzvos. So Hakshivu Laisha, and Hakshivu Laisha is also not a place. Mehai lo tistifi ella istife. So he says what he means is Hakshiva Laisha. You should pay attention. Hakshiva Laisha. You should pay attention to Laisha, which means you don't have to worry about Sanhedrin. You shouldn't be worried about Sanhedrin. Ela istifi min Nebuchadnezzar harasha. You should be only worried about Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar harasha, the wicked Nebuchadnezzar, he's ultimately going to destroy the Beis Hamikdash. You don't have to worry. Sanhedrin is not the one who's going to be successful. That's what the Navi told them. Debetil ka'aryeh, because Nebuchadnezzar is compared to a lion. That's what the word Laisha means. Laisha means a lion. So Nebuchadnezzar is called a lion. That's what you have to worry about. Shinamar, the pasuk says, Allah aryeh mi subcho, that the lion is going to come from his den and he's going to attack Yerushalayim, and that's ultimately the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so now, what does the pasuk explain? The pasuk continues, my ania anosos. What is the pasuk what it says? Ania anosos, asid Yirmiyah ben Chikyo misnabe Allah. So in the future, right, Yirmiyah ben Chilkiah is going to come and he's going to give a prophecy on Nebuchadnezzar. May Anosos, from this place, the city called Anosos, Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Divra Yirmiyah ben Chilkiah min hakohanim asher ba'Anosos beretz binyamin. So Ania Anosos isn't a place; just means that it will be answered from Anosos, meaning there will be a nevuah about Nebuchadnezzar, who's the Laisha, who's the lion, and then you'll find out who's the one you have to be worried about.
What's the time difference between these and Nebuchadnezzar?
Sanhedrin. So he was 11 years earlier, right? And Chizkiyahu's righteousness saved them, right? So that's what prevented them from being destroyed.
So if they're learning Torah and they're being saved from Sanhedrin, right, why not Nebuchadnezzar?
Because eventually Chizkiyahu dies, and his son is wicked, and he passes along to the next generation, and Nebuchadnezzar is able to conquer them.
And the prophecy is saying that this is going to happen.
That's correct. So here comes all the Sanhedrin, and right. But again, I guess you could still say it is cryptic language if you're reading it, right? It's even hard to translate, right? And so the Gemara is telling you this is what it means. I guess after the fact we know what it means, right? That that there's a lion come forward, and you have to worry about the lion, and there's going to be a prophecy that comes from Anosos, and you'll learn about. Okay, but we didn't have the prophecy from Anosos yet, but ultimately, look, that was the whole Yirmiyahu was like standing up and telling everybody, the destruction is coming, you guys, you gotta change, and nobody listened.
So even though there's a prophecy, it could be averted.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it could be
always that way, right? Correct. Yeah. So there's the prophecy, but they didn't listen.
Yeah.
Tzadihei Amud Aleph.
Tzadi Hamidov, thank you. Dichsiv Divri Binyam ben Chilkiyahu. Okay, so it's Banasa's son. Binyam Asher Banasos. Okay, so fine. Dichsiv Divri Binyam ben Chilkiyahu bin hakohanim asher ba'Anosos beretz binyamin. That was this place in Anosos, which was in the land of Binyamin. Now, mi dami. Is that similar? What are you talking about? Nebuchadnezzar, you're going to call him a lion. Hasam Ari. Hachalayish. Here you're talking about a lion. There you're talking about a layish. An Ari and a lion, are those the same? An Ari and a layish, are those the same things? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Shisha Shemos Yesh Ari. There are 6 words in Hebrew for a lion. So therefore, same thing. Eluhain, these are the words. Ari, a kefir, a lavi, a layish, a shachal, and a shachatz. So all of those words, when you see them in Tanakh, they all mean lion. So therefore, it is a synonym, and so it was referring to Nebuchadnezzar. Ihachi, well, if what you're saying is now true, that you've explained the pasuk Tzahli Kolech Bas Galim, and those are not places. So then Batzur Lehu, so then you've taken off 3 of the places. You're down to 9. You said there were supposed to be 10. You were upset because there were 12. So now you've reinterpreted the pasuk so that some of those places were not places, they were descriptions of future events. So now you're down to 9. So batzerlu, you have too short. So the answer is avru me avra tartin ninhu. The answer is the place called avru me mabra is actually 2 places. Right? We thought that was one place. They passed by a place called Mabra. No, they went through Avru and Mabra. Those are 2 different places. So that gives you 10, right? And he lists them here. Ayas, Migron, Michmash, Avru, Mabra, Gava, Rama, Givashol, and Madmena and Gavim. So those are the 10 places.
Same continent though?
They're all in Eretz Yisrael, right? They're just going down from the northern part of Eretz Yisrael down south. But it should have taken a long enough time. It should have taken 10 days to be able to get there, especially with a large army. And he got there in 1 day. Okay, so now, let's take a break from Sanhedrin for a moment to go back over something that we had mentioned quickly before. My Od Hayom Ben Nov, right? We were talking about Doeg before, that the destruction of David Amelech's lineage happened as a result of Doeg speaking Lashon Hara, and then he got Shaul to chase after him, and Doeg so my Od Hayom Benov. What does that mean? He spent the extra day. Doeg delayed in the city of Nov La'amod in order to stay there. So Rav Huna Osa Yom Nishtayar Me'ona Shel Nov. That day. The anger of the destruction of the city of Nov, because what happened? Well, the story is that David HaMelech was running away from Shaul and he's running low on supplies. So he comes to the city of Nov and he tells the leaders of Nov that he's there on an official royal mission from Shaul. He lies. He tells them he's officially there on a royal mission, and they figure that they need to supply him with supplies because that's what the king would want.
If he lied, and what did you consider stealing because he lied?
That is going to be, we're going to discuss that David Melch is punished for that too. He bears responsibility partly for the destruction of Nov, because if he had told them, I'm an outlaw and Shaul is coming to kill me, maybe the people of Nov wouldn't have helped him, and then they wouldn't have gotten into trouble. But what happened is that David gets his supplies, and Doeg happens to be back in the city that day, and he observes David getting help, material support, goes back and reports to Shaul, tells Lashon Hara, and says that the people of Nov are helping David, and Shaul gets angry about it, and he orders the destruction and the killing of everybody in Nov, and they slaughter the entire city of Kohanim. So this was a terrible Aveira. So this pasuk says that this day that Sanhedrin came to Yerushalayim was the last day of the punishment from the Avona Shel Nov, right? Because of the Aveira that happened in Nov, basically, right, the Hashem makes it so that instead of carrying out the full punishment for an Aveira immediately, which would cause destruction, a significant destruction, Hashem spreads the punishment out over a long period of time. So the period of punishment for this Aveira was still going. That day that Sanhedrin attacked and destroyed the 10 Shvatim was the last day of the punishment of Nov, and that's why he was running. He was rushing so fast to get to Yerushalayim that day, because he knew if he got to Yerushalayim later, he wouldn't have the merit to be able to win. So he figured he's got to get there fast. That's why he was pushing the army to go so fast. So Omri le Kaldoi, this is what happened. The Babylonians said to him, I azlis ha'idna, if you go now, yachalta, you're going to win, because the Jewish people still have this punishment over their heads. V'ilo, but if you don't go now, lo yachalta, you're not going to win. So urcha deboi l'seguye basar yome, so this path that he went on, that should have taken 10 days, saga b'chad yome, he was able to do it in 1 day. Kimatu Yerushalayim, so when Sanhedrin got to Yerushalayim, shodule bistraki ad desulik v'yosiv mi'ilave shura ad dechazia l'kul Yerushalayim. So what happened was, when he got there, so Sanhedrin put some cushions or some pillows or something underneath himself in order that he could rise up and have a good view of what was going on inside Yerushalayim, because he had to see over the walls. He wanted to spy and see what was going on. Okay, he could see all the way into Yerushalayim. Ki chazye is izutar be'enei. So what he saw, Yerushalayim, right? It seemed so small. The city of Yerushalayim was not a huge, massive metropolis like he thought it was going to be. So Amar, hello, dahi karted Yerushalayim. This is the city. This is all it is, right? Da'Allah argishis kol mashirisi ve'Allah kavshis kol medinta. So he says that it's so small and it's so weak from all the other cities that I've destroyed. And he got up and he waved his hand at it. And he shook his head in disgust, like this is an easy one. I can take over this city very easily. So therefore, Movil umaisi biadeh al tur beis mikdasha de Betzion val azar to Yerushalayim. Then he waved as though he was dismissing towards the Beis Hamikdash, which and on Har Bayis and the Azara in Yerushalayim. Right? He was dismissing it, like that's nothing. So halo he zeira v'chalsha mikol karche amamaya dekavshis. So the people of his army were saying, so let's go attack it, right? So let's go attack the city right now. But Amarlu, he said to them, I went back in line. 1 second. Amar nishbe yalda ha'idna. So he says, let's go. They said, let's go attack it right now. We're ready. We're here. Let's go. Amar lahu, he said to them, Tamhisu l'machari. He says, let's wait till tomorrow. We're tired. And it's a small city, and we've got 185,000 troops. We don't have to worry about it. We'll attack it tomorrow. It's not a big deal. I don't need miracles to attack this city. Aisuli kochad v'chad minaychu gulmu. So, l'machar aisuli kochad v'chad minaychu. So then what is going to happen is tomorrow, the strategy is going to be, everybody come tomorrow, gulmu, harag mine, take one, just go up to the wall and everybody take one stone, right? We have so many of us that if everybody just we don't need siege devices. If everybody just goes to the wall and grabs one stone, there's gonna be no wall left. Umiyad, so that's what happened. So that was the plan. Then immediately after that, Vayhi balaylahu, on that night, Vayetzi Melech Hashem, an angel of Hashem came out, Vayach b'machane Ashur, and he attacked the camp of Ashur. Me'u shmona v'chamisha elef, 185,000 people died. Vayashkimu b'boker, they woke up in the morning. V'nei kulam pegorim mesim, and everybody was dead corpses. Amar of Papa, Haid Damrinchi, this is what people say, Bas Dina, Batel Dina. If you leave judgment to go overnight, so then you've nullified the din overnight, right? If you don't take advantage of the opportunities you have right now, right, it's going to be too late tomorrow. And so he could have won if he had attacked that day, but he didn't.
Is that something that applies to the judges, or?
It is a bit bas dino, right? But I think it's midas adin, right?
Yeah, okay.
Right. So take advantage of your opportunities, I guess. Okay. So now, the Yishbi benov asher biyalde harafa. So Yishbi benov. Okay, he was from the Yilede harafa umishkal. So he was one of the giants, and he was mishkal keno. He was so big that his staff was shalosh meos mishkal nechoshes. That was 300 of a weight of copper, which is very heavy. V'chagor chadasha, and he was wearing new armor. Vayomer lahakoses David. So now we got to go back to the city of Nov for a moment because we have to discuss why the punishment was so great that it lasted so long. So what started is, right, Yishbi Benov was this fellow who was this giant. So he's from the Plishtim, and he decides he's going to go attack David, right? He was Goliath's brother. He was this guy, Yishbi, right? He was going to try to attack David. So my Yishbi Benov, what does it mean? He's called Yishbi Benov. So Rabbi Yehuda Marav. So Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav. The pasuk means Ishaba al Iske Nov. He was coming because David HaMelech was supposed to get punished for his part in the destruction of city of Nov. Right, as Yehuda said, lying isn't that bad. So the answer is yeah, he was bad, and so now David HaMelech is supposed to get punished. So Yishbi comes in order to attack David because of what he did in Nov. Amrli HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeDavid. So Hashem says to David, Ad masai yeh avon zetam b'yadcha. How long are you going to try to get away with having this Aveira unpunished, hidden in your midst. Al Yadcha Neraga Nov Ir HaKohanim. Because of you, the city of Nov, the Kohanim and the city of Nov were destroyed. Val Yadcha Netrak Doeg Hadomi. And because of you, right, Doeg Hadomi, he was a big tzaddik first, and then he tells Lashon Hara and he goes off the derech. Davanach, that's indirectly your fault as well. Val Yadcha Nergu Shol. And as a result, Shol HaMelech kills the people of Nov. He winds up getting punished as well, and he dies. So this all really starts because of your fault, David HaMelech. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get away with it? So as Nergu Shol, Shoshes Banav, Shoshin is Shol, and his 3 children died. So he asks him, Ritzoncha Yechal Zarecha. You have 2 choices, Hashem says to David. You can either have all of your children wiped out, O Timsar Biyad Oyev, or you can fall into the hands of your enemy. Amar Lefanav Ribbono Shalom. So David said, Hashem, Mutav Emsar Biyad Oyev. I'd rather fall in the hands of my enemy. So Velo Yachle Zari, just don't cut off my children. So Yom Echad, so one day, Nafak Lishpor Bazai, he was going hunting, right? So he was going hunting, and Asa Satan ve'admile Ketavia. And the Satan came along, and he looked like a deer. So Pasuk Begira, so he shot an arrow at it, Velo Matye, but it didn't reach the deer. Mashchei ad de'amte leretz plishtim. So David went and got his arrow, he fired again, and he kept going like this until the deer got him to go across the border all the way into the land of the Plishtim. So now David is in enemy territory by himself.
Did he get arrested by the customs officer?
That's what happens. Kidechazia Yishpi Benov. So when Yishpi Benov, the customs officer, Yehuda says, right? So when Yishpi Benov sees him, Amar Hainu Hai Dekatle Golias. Achi, this is the guy who killed my brother Golias. So I got to get even. Kafte. So he grabbed him and Kamteya, and he tied him up. Right. So Kafte, he tied him up. Kamte, and he picked him up. And Osvei v'shadye tote bebadya, and he folded him over and he put him under the beam of an olive press, a very heavy olive press beam, and he went to go sit on it in order to squish him. That's how he was going to kill David. So is Avid le Nisa. So there's a miracle. Machale aramituse, the ground was soft underneath him, and David sunk into the ground rather than getting killed. So Hainu Dichsiv, that's what the pasuk means when it says in Tehillim, David Melech says, Tarchiv tzadei tachtai. Right, that the ground comes soft under me, I guess is the idea of it, right? Tarchiv tzadi tachtai velo madu karsulai. And I guess he wasn't squished as a result of the ground becoming soft underneath him. Hahu yoma, so that day, apanya demali shab sahava. It was Friday afternoon. So Avishai ben Tzuria hava kachayef reshe bedalad garbe demaya. So Avishai ben Tzuria, who is David's nephew, and Yoav ben Tsuria's brother, so he's washing his hair, getting ready for Shabbos with 4 measures of water. Chazinu kitame dama, and he sees in the water some blood. So ikadamri osayona itrif kameh. And some say that was a dove that came fluttering down and was flapping its wings in front of him. So he took this as a sign, right? He figured something's wrong. Hashem is sending me a message. Amar Knesses Yisrael Liyona. He says, Amar Knesses Yisrael Liyona imtila. The Jewish people are compared to a dove. So therefore, Chazinhu kitame dama. So he says, I saw like a little bit of this blood. So therefore, he knows that the Jewish people are in some kind of trouble as a result of the sign. Eked Amri, there is also Yona Itrif Kameh, that the Yona, sorry, I went back a line. I did it again. Im Silat Shinemar, Pasuk says, Kanfe Yona Nechba Bekesef. The dove's wings are covered in silver. Shmami Na, so you see from here, David Malka di Yisrael B'tzar Shari. I can see that if the dove is coming flying by, that means that David HaMelech must be in trouble. So, also Lebese, so Avishai goes to check out what's going on with David. He goes to David's house. Velo Ashkechai. David was not there. Amar Tnan, ein rochvin al susa ve'in yoshvin al kiso ve'in mishtamshin be'sharvito. So he said, look, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I know I'm not allowed to ride on his horse. I'm not allowed to sit in his seat, and I'm not allowed to use his scepter because he's the king. So I can't do that.
Can't you replace it with his own?
No, because it's the king's. It doesn't matter, right? You can't sit in your parents' chair. You can't say, "Here's my chair, Dad. I'm going to sit in yours." Right? You have to show respect. You can't sit in the king's chair. Can't take his horse. So he needs a horse in order to go find David. So Bishas is a kanamai. He says, "What do I do? It's dangerous. It's emergency." So what's the halacha? Can I use his horse in an emergency? So also shal be midrasha. So he went to the base medrash and he asked the shaila, right? Well, can I use the horse? So Amrulay Bishas is a kind of shopper. They said, okay, if it's in danger, if David's in danger, you got to go. So shopper tummy. So rachvei leparde. So he rode his donkey, his horse. The kamba ozel kaftzile ara. So Hashem made a miracle, and the land folded over on itself so that he could get there fast, right? Bahadi de Kamaski chazya leorpa. So as soon as he got over the border, the first person he sees is Orpah. Now Orpah is Goliath and Yishbi's mother, right? She's Ruth's sister, and Ruth's sister, and so she's the mother of these giants, right? So he says Orpah leimi ime. So he sees. He gets over there and he sees Orpah sitting there. Dahavas navla. So she was doing her knitting, right? She was spinning some wool there. Ki chazise. So when she saw Avishai coming in, paske lepilche shadete ilave. So she decided she took her spindle and she threw it at him, right? Decided that she's going to go. She's going to kill him.
Spindle was like a sphere.
A spindle is like a long pointy tool that you take the pieces of fibers of what you shear and you spin it and make it and turn it into thread. So it spins around and around and around. But it could be like a long, pointy, heavy object. So it certainly is a formidable weapon.
It could be like a sphere.
I think it's pointy. I think they're actually pointy, right? So it was a formidable weapon, I guess. So she threw it at him. Savra lemikdele. She wanted to kill him. So amrale olam isi li palach patke beresh mocha vekatla. So she says. So I'm sorry. She said to herself, right, that which was she saying that she was saying, right? So she wanted to kill him. So she said to Avishai, right? She threw it at him, but she missed. She didn't kill him. So she says to him, "Could you please, young man, could you bring me my spindle back?" Right? Because she, I guess, will try again. But he figured it out. Paske beresh mocha. So he figured it out. So he picked up the spindle and he hit her in the head, vikatla, and he killed her. So Orpah got killed.
So it backfired.
Backfired, right? So she got killed. So kadchozya yishbi benov. So when he saw Yishbi benov, Amar hashtu hava betrain, vikatlin, vikatlin. Li patke lidov. So he says, vekatlinli. So he says, there's two people coming against me. So two people are going to come and they're going to kill me, right? So this is Yishbi knows it's a 2-on-1.
He's getting cornered.
So now he knows he's got to get rid of one of them real fast. So paskela David leila, he throws David up in the air. V'datz leila romchei, and he placed his spear on the ground underneath where David was going to land, hoping to skewer David that way. So Amar Nipol Allah v'niktel, he'll fall on the spear and he's going to die. So Amar Avishai Shem, so Avishai said the special name of Hashem, Ukme LeDavid bein Shmai LaAra. And David wound up getting suspended in the midair by using Hashem's name.
He's just floating.
So he's just floating there, right? So this is the fight scene.
You mean Superman?
Right?
Spider-Man is web.
Superman. That's right, Superman. V'nemalei ihu. So why didn't David HaMelech just use the Shem Hashem and escape? Why did he need Avishai to do it? So the answer is Ein Chovish Motzi Atzmo B'Beis Yisur, because somebody who's in trouble can't get themselves out of jail, right? You need somebody to come and help you. He couldn't have done it.
PSP Bell or whatever it is.
So somebody else had to get him out. Okay. So Amar Le, my boys hachi. So Avishai says, David says, what are you doing here? Avishai says to David, what are you doing here? Why are you even here? So Amar Le, so David said, Hachi Amar Li Kuchabrich, this is what Hashem told me, V'hachi Hadri Le, and this is what I answered him, right? I was going to give myself up so that my kids could live. So Amar Le, so Avishai says, Apich Tzusach, you got to change your mind. You can't get killed. So Bar Baruch Kira Lizabun V'at Lo Titztar, right? Better that your children will take the brunt of the Avera rather than, because there's many of them, right? It'll be distributed amongst the group, and you shouldn't take it. So Amar Le, Ihachi Saya Bahadon. He says, okay, but if we're going to do that, I need your help to get out of this mess. So Hainu Chsiv, the pasuk says, Vayazor lo Avishai ben Tzuria. Avishai ben Tzuria helped David. Pasuk says, Amar Yehuda Amar Rav she'azro b'tefillah. He helped him by davening for David's sake.
What's the reason he advised him to do that?
I guess he felt that David was that important, right?
Yeah.
David was VIP.
That's correct. He said it's better. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So now, Amar Avishai says the shame again, and va'achte, and he brought David out of midair and brought him over to him. Okay. Hava karadif basrayu. So now they're running away, and Yishbi Benov is chasing after them. Kimata Kube. So when they came to this place called Kube, Amri Kumbe, right? So they said, okay, this is a place for us to make our stand, right? It's even called Kubi. It sounds like Kumbe. Let's make our stand. Kimata. So when they came to a place called Beitrei, the place was called Beitrei. Amri, they said, Betrei Guryan Katlula Arya. So they said, with two people, they can kill a lion, right? We are going to be able to hold him and beat him. So Amri Lei, so they said to Yishbi, Zil Ashtakach Leorpa Imech Bekivra, right? You should go take a look. We killed your mother, right? So Ki Adkru Le Shema Dimei, when they mentioned his mother, so then Kechosh Chele, so then he got weak. He got very upset. The Katle, and that gave them the upper hand to be able to win the battle, and they killed him. The pasuk says, "Oz nishbu anshe David lo lemor lo teitze od itanu lemilchama v'lo sechabe es ner Yisrael." That was when the key people of David made the rule: David, you don't go out without bodyguards. You're now never allowed to leave without us, and we don't want the light of the Jewish people to be extinguished. So you now have to always go. Right?
With armed guards.
Always with armed guards, exactly.
So is there
and he wasn't allowed to go out to battle. It's dangerous.
Do you have a monitor on him as well to track his GPS in case he tries to escape?
Might be a Tosfos.
Is there any mention that the sons of David, would continue doing the Avera that David?
Well, which Avera?
Like lying, for example.
You mean, whether they did that as well?
Because
right, they shouldn't get punished as a result. You're saying
it's only
a good point.
When they continue to do what the father is doing.
Right, it's a good point.
In this case, we don't know whether it's.
And we will see when David's children do get punished, and the Gemara talks about David's children getting punished. They probably were not doing the right things at that time. So it probably is true. I had not thought about it.
I have a little more in the cup next to you.
Oh, okay, good. There we go. My last bit of coffee. Okay, so now.
But also,
yeah.
Would David Melech's actions in Nov have been considered pikuach nefesh for
himself? It's a good question, right? Because he's on the run and he had nothing to do, right? But I guess even tzaddikim get judged, right? Tzaddikim get judged at the highest levels. I guess even if he needed to, I doubt it would be pikuach nefesh because otherwise he couldn't be held liable for pikuach nefesh. Okay, so now, Tanur Rabbanan, Shlosha Kaftzalem Haaretz. Since we talked about Avishai getting the land folded underneath him, just mentioned that happened to three different people in history. Elazar Eved Avraham, happened to Elazar, and Yaakov Avinu, and Avishai ben Tzuria. These are the three people. So, Avishai ben Tzuria, Hadam, we just told you the story of Avishai ben Tzuria and how the ground went fast, right? Especially since he had someplace to be on Erev Shabbos. So, he was able to move fast. Eliezer Eved Avram. What about Eliezer? The pasuk says, "Vo hayom el ha'ayin," that when Eliezer got right, he left Avram Avinu and he got to Haran in a day. And he says, "I left today, and here I am." How did he get from where Avram Avinu was to Haran in a single day. Lamemer dehu yoma nafak. He left that day, and it was because he had kvitzas haderech, right? He was able to go over the land. Yaakov Avinu. So what about Yaakov Avinu? Tzadi Heyam and Beis. V'chsiv vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana. Yaakov. Is it really yours also? Mine too. So Yaakov left Beersheva and he got to Haran. Uksiv, the pasuk says, "Vayifga b'makom," and he got to that place. Vayolman sham, and he slept there. Because the sun was setting. Ki mata lecharan, right? So he got to Haran. What happens is it says Yaakov went to Haran, and then all of a sudden he's back at the other place again. So what happened? So it says, "Efshar avarti al makom shispalu bo avosai v'ani lo hispalalti bo." He said, "What happens?" He got to Haran. He went, I passed the place where everybody davened, Har Moria, and I didn't daven there. So boy limaders, he wanted to go back, cave into Har Badar Tilimihadr. As soon as he decided he wanted to go back, Kaftzale Ara, the land folded under him, Vayiv Gabamakom, and he appeared right at the right place. He got to the place.
What's Sanhedrin did? Is not considered the same.
No, that was right. He just pushed hard, fast.
10 days in 1 day.
Yes, correct.
I don't know.
It sounds like, but it's interesting. That's not Kvitzas Haderech, right? So that's interesting, right? That they don't call Kvitzas Haderech. It's a good point, right? That wasn't Kvitzas
It
Haderech.
could be like a different mechanism,
Yeah.
right? Like the mechanism being described here is like the earth folded.
Folded.
It's like
Versus being able to travel extra fast.
versus being on like a moving sidewalk.
Yeah. So Davar Acher, another explanation, Ein Pigia El Tefillah. When it says Vayifka B'makom, doesn't mean he happened upon that place. Rather, it means that he davened there. Shnei Pasuk says, V'ata al tispalel ba'ad hamazeh. In Yirmiyahu it says, don't daven. Hashem tells Yirmiyahu, don't daven for them anymore. V'al tisa ba'adam rina utfila v'al tifka bi. Because I don't want to forgive them, so don't daven on their behalf anymore. So Hashem tells Yirmiyahu. So he says the word tifka is to daven. Okay, then back into Yaakov. She slept there because the sun was setting. So now, after he davened, he wanted to go back, right? Got to go back to Haran. So Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu tzadik zeh ba lebeis maloni yipater. He says, I don't understand. Tzadik's coming to my hotel, where Hashem lives. I can't let him leave. Below Lina by not staying overnight. Miyad ba Hashem. So therefore,
don't give him your key card.
Hashem made the sun set immediately. Right? Behind this, Pasuk says, "Vayizrach lo Hashemesh," as Pasuk says, that Hashem made the sun rise for Yaakov. This is where Yaakov is wrestling the angel of Esav. It says, "Vayizrach lo Shemesh," the sun shone for him. So v'chi lo bilvad zarchad, but the sun shines for Yaakov, but it doesn't shine for anybody else. V'alechol olam kulo zarchad. The word.
Yaakov was fighting with the angel of Esav. What? On one side it was dark, one side it was light, or how did that work?
So that's what the question is, right? Since it seems to be that the whole world, the light shined at the same time. El Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Shemesh sheba b'avuro, zarcha b'avuro. What it says is that Hashem basically turned the clock forward again. Just like the whole world lost several hours because Hashem made the sun set too early. Now, Hashem made the sun rise earlier in order to get the clock back set.
Just like the winter time here.
Right, so that's how...
The original daylight.
That's the original daylight savings. That's exactly right. Hashem set the clock back, so set the clock forward. Now he's setting the clock back in order to even it out. Okay, so now we said David Hamelech, and now we have to pay attention to see if there's any Avera here, if we can watch to answer Mr. Kislasi's question here. We know in Dekala Zar'e LeDavid. How do we know that David's children were eventually destroyed? So the pasuk says, "Vatalia im Achazyahu rasa kimes bina." So she did was right. So Atalia, the mother of Achazyahu, saw that her son Achazyahu died. Vataka vatabeid as kol zera hamemlacha, and she got up and she murdered everybody. She killed everybody who was from Beis David because she wanted to be queen. So she figured, I'm going to kill all of the people, all of the children of David. It doesn't really describe what the children of David did, but
is that jealousy and balgaiva-ish?
that is terrible, right? Don't murder anybody for any reason,
Right.
especially for jealousy, right? To become the king. Now,
Who is Asalia?
this is who is she?
Yeah.
She's she's described. She's the mother of Achazyahu, who is. She becomes the queen after her son dies. Right? She was actually a queen of Yehuda, and she's in Malachim Beis Parak Yud Aleph. So you can look her up there. But The question is, Yoash survived. Yoash was the one kid. Yoash. Yoash was the one child who survived. They grabbed Yoash. His sister saved him and brought him to. Sorry, his sister was his sister. It says Vatikach Yoshava bas Hamelech Yoram Achos Achazyahu. So it was Achazyahu's sister saved Yoash ben Achazia. So he saved the son Yoash, who was the son of Achazyahu, who was killed. So she saves. So basically, he saves the grandson from his own grandmother, right? And brings Yoash to the Beis Hamikdash to be hidden.
Does he grow up to be a tzaddik or does he grow up to be a Russia?
Yoash grows up to be a tzaddik. He's on the good side, right? So Hasam Nami Ishtari of Yasser. So Yoash was around. Hasam Nami Ishtari of Yasser. The answer is when Nov was destroyed, Evyasar the Kohen also survived that. So therefore, since one person survived the city of Nov's destruction, so too one person survived David HaMelech's children's destruction. The pasuk says, "Vayimali ben echad lachimelech ben achituvu shmo Evyasar." So he was the one survivor. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav ilmali lo nishtar Evyasar lachimelech ben achituv. If Evyasar had not survived, Lo nishtar mizar shel David saridu polit, then there wouldn't have been any survivors from David's family as well. Okay, it's a place to stop.